who is this fruit for? If it's an inward transformation in you, if it's a spiritual gift, there are lots of ways to talk about what fruit is. But it is an evidence in your life that you are truly a disciple of Jesus Christ and you have given up everything for him, and everything in your life is geared towards him and his way and his will. All of that is fruit for his purpose. Who is it for? If you are a Christian, your fruit is not for you. It's not for you. You know, if you've ever seen any sort of fruit tree, an apple tree, an orange tree, a berry bush, they don't cannibalize themselves. The reason they produce fruit is so someone else can come up and take from that and say thank you. Someone else can get sustenance and meaning and life from it. A tree bears fruit, and disciples of Jesus bears fruit because someday someone else will come along and take from your tree. And what if someone comes to your tree and you are barren of fruit? You have no fruit to give to someone else. You have no life to give to someone else. You're no use to God. You know, LifePoint's mission is this. You know, we want to help as many people as possible know and love God most so they can know themselves and others best. We believe both knowledge and love work together. If you know someone but you don't love them, it's superficial. If you love them and you don't actually know them, it's fake. You need both knowledge and love. And we primarily want you to know and love God most, above all else. And we believe that when that happens, you can finally understand yourself. You can know and love yourself. You know how God has wired you, how he's gifted you. And you can finally love yourself because you know, I love myself because God loves me. There's an epidemic in this country about people who want to commit suicide because they think they have no value. And they're incredibly valuable to God. That's why you love yourself first. And all sorts of people, when we first came up with this, were like, isn't it love God and love people? I was like, if you can't love yourself, you will never love someone else in a true way. It will always be a superficial movement of God's love away from yourself, because if you don't really think that you are accepted and loved by him, you won't believe that about other people too. So you can know and love yourself best, and then you turn and you look to someone else and you say, how do I know and love them best? Knowing them means you know how to help. Loving them means you are willing to help. And we'll talk about some next steps, but I want to just talk about the big one, today's next steps. We hope you'll take your next step so you can be ready when someone you know and love takes their first. Everyone has a person in your life. I challenge you to challenge me on this. Everyone has a person in your life, if you are a Christian, that if you received a text message or a call, and if they called you up and said, I want to make your God my God, I want to make your church my church, I want to make your faith my faith, what would you give to the person in your love, in your life, to call you and tell you that? You would give anything. It's your son, it's your brother, it's your mom, it's your dad, it's your neighbor, it's your coworker, it's some combination of those. But someone in your life somewhere, if they picked up the phone and they said, man, I just really want to make your God my God. I really want to have a faith like you do. I want to go to church. And you've been praying and thinking about them forever. What would you give? There is no amount of money and time and effort that you would not sacrifice to take that phone call or to receive that text message. The challenge is always going to be, are you ready to have that conversation? And for many of you, you're not. And the reason for that is that you have not continued to take your next steps in Jesus. You have not done that. You know, we've talked about plants, and maybe you've tuned out, but a different way to think about this is a gym membership. You ever known someone who talks about their gym membership and you look them up and down, you're like, you don't look like you go to the gym. You don't do that. You don't look like you have a gym membership. You look like you have a Costco membership. I can see that one. But you don't have a gym membership. And the reason that is so apparent is because when someone goes to the gym, you're just like, you're yoked, man or woman. And you can tell they don't have to say anything because it's totally apparent that they have used their membership in the gym. Why? Why is it, as Christians, that there are all sorts of questions as whether or not we live for Jesus? Or do we just have the card? When someone comes up to us, do they go, there is something different about you? The way you talk, the way you live, your compassion, the way you take care of your neighbors and your family and stuff like that. I don't have to ask if you're a Christian. I know that you are. And you should run the other direction when people who come up to you and claim, I am a Christian. You're like, you got to tell me that maybe you're not. And maybe that's too bold and too harsh. You got to take that with Jesus, because it's essentially what he's saying. If you bear no fruit and you do not use your gifts and your finances and your times and your relationship and your job and everything that you have, you will be cut off. You will die and you will be no use to God. That's what he says. So now that we're all encouraged, I want to give you 4 ways to avoid that, because there are ways to make sure you do not fall into that category. And church, to be honest, there are some of you here who fall into that category. You've been attending for years and you've never volunteered. I know, because I've had conversations with you in the lobby. No one's going to talk with me in the lobby afterwards. It's going to be great. And there are people that I've seen for years, have been here 5 years. And all sorts of challenges have happened. There are people who have said, when are you going to get in a group? And they laugh and they pat me on the back and they say good message and they leave. And it breaks my heart. I don't want to guilt and shame anybody, but it's so challenging for me to go, you come all the time, you hear the message, you hear what Jesus is saying, and you've done nothing. When will you? Now, to be completely fair, there is a time in your life that you just need to come and attend. There's a time in your life that you just need to come and listen. There's a time in your life that you need to know what you're saying yes to. I am totally for that. In fact, I might be really skeptical if you jump into too much too soon. But for the rest of you who've been coming for years and who have been Christ followers from years, you're running the risk of being no use to God.